That morning the woods sounded wrong. Steel screamed as wire tightened, dirt tore, and a deep, furious roar rolled through the trees. I'd seen hogs trapped before, but never like this. Nets shuddered under raw power as something huge fought to escape. It all began with one ruined field. I returned home to visit my grandmother. She silently pointed the cornfield. Half the crop crushed, roots ripped, soil churned as if a machine had gone through it. No machines run at night here. Only wild hogs could do this. Neighbors had tried everything. Fences, night watches, blinding lights, even sleeping in the field. Still the herd came, smashed through, and vanished before dawn. An old hunter finally said what we feared. There was a lead boar, not just strong but cunning, guiding them. That line changed everything. We weren't dealing with pests. We were facing an organized force. And the real hunt had just begun. We gathered our gear, mapped the paths, and waited in deadly silence for night. We moved before dawn. Tracks cut the soft soil like wounds, leading from the ruined corn into older timber. The herd had a route, repeated and deliberate. Wild hogs are not random. They learn. Someone led them. We split into teams and followed worn corridors where brush was broken and the earth churned. Those were the funnels where the animals passed. That was where the traps had to be. Steel posts were driven deep, each set with care. Net panels were unrolled and anchored, knots doubled, anchors tested. One weak point would ruin the line. When the last section was set, cameras were armed, flashlights dimmed, and we pulled back to kill our scent. Waiting became the operation's core. Observation, not chase. Night fell, and the woods shifted. Shapes gathered at the edge, low and silent. More hogs formed than anyone anticipated. A full sounder moving like a dark mass. They fed forward, unaware. Then one sensed wrongness and tried to bolt. The net tightened like a fist. Steel screamed. Dirt erupted. The traps held as animals slammed the mesh, grunted, and bucked, shaking the setup. Within minutes, another camera blinked red. A second trap trip, then a third. The valley answered with noise from every direction. Teams ran between sites, flashlights cutting pockets of motion. This was no lucky strike. It was controlled. By dawn, the scene fell quiet. Up close, the hogs were huge, scarred, heavy-shouldered, survivors hardened by hunger and fight. But the lead boar's tracks continued east. He had not been caught. Fresh, deep prints cut away from our line. The victory felt partial. We had reduced pressure on some farms, but the main threat remained. So we shifted from reaction to planning. Success proved the technique. Persistence would make it durable. For days we watched. We stopped chasing. Instead, we cataloged where the hogs fed, routes to water, the times the herd moved. Silence became our tool. Each pattern we recorded drew a clearer map of natural gateways. Thin passes between thickets, creek crossings, ridgetop connectors. Those gateways focused the herd. We placed subtle control points, bait to shape movement, reinforced corrals at final boundaries, cameras to confirm approach. The aim was not mass slaughter, but breaking the herd's use of open corridors and restoring farmlands. When the hogs found routes blocked and sent pressure removed, they began to avoid the area. That avoidance, plus targeted trapping, pushed movement back into safer channels. It wasn't quick. The lead boar tested every seam and learned from near misses. But with patience, timing, and humane practice, the herd's behavior shifted. Fields stopped being demolished nightly. People slept easier. The lesson was clear. Control without understanding trains animals to be smarter. Control with observation and respect for the land restores balance. The nets that first night were only the opening move in a longer, careful campaign to protect the farm and its people. Peace came back. Night operations had taught us more than brute force ever could. Each capture revealed patterns. The herd moved in waves. The young followed the old, and the lead bore tested routes first, sweeping for scent and safety. Our job had shifted from confrontation to choreography. We were no longer chasing shadows. We were shaping the stage. We started small, placing a string of passive controls where the land funneled movement naturally. Natural gateways between thickets, along creek bends, across ridge shoulders, became our focal points. At each gateway we used minimal scent, controlled baiting, and reinforced corrals built to humane standards. The idea was simple: guide without harassing, close without panic. When animals encountered an obstacle that felt permanent but non-threatening, they reevaluated their route rather than fracturing into dangerous splinters. Field cameras recorded behavior in fine detail. We timed gate closures to when most of the sounder had entered, preventing stragglers from being cut off and avoiding chaotic bursts that teach avoidance. When traps closed, the teams moved calmly, with heavy gloves and nets, following protocols to minimize stress and injury. Captured animals were quickly secured and transported under veterinary oversight where required. Local rules guided our actions. Humane handling was non-negotiable. Beyond traps, we worked the landscape itself. Farmers were advised to alter night routines that attracted hogs, closing compost pits, securing livestock feed, and using motion-activated lights sparingly to avoid training the herd. Planting sacrificial buffers, small plots meant to absorb initial foraging, gave crops time to mature while we reduced pressure on main fields. Simple changes often yielded outsized benefits. Community coordination was the backbone of the campaign. Neighbors shared observations, rotated monitoring duties, and supported each other during long nights. Local authorities helped by enforcing regulations on baiting and trapping and by coordinating disposal or utilization of captured animals. The economic angle became clear. Salvaged meat and responsible processing added value back into the community, turning a crisis into measured opportunity. Still, the lead boar was elusive. He learned fast, testing seams and shifting routes after near misses. Each attempt taught us something new, and with every cycle our system grew more robust. The breakthrough came when observation, timing, and restraint synchronized, when we stopped chasing and let the land funnel the herd into predictable moves. That patience bought predictability, and predictability bought safety for fields and families. As the weeks passed, sightings at the most affected farms dropped. Nighttime noise faded. Children walked to buses again without worry. The work was far from over, but the trajectory had changed. The net that first night had been the opening act. The long, careful choreography that followed closed the season on terms we could live with. We stayed vigilant every night. The end of the trapping season did not mean an end to the work. It marked a change in how the community thought about wildlife, land, and responsibility. We learned the hard way that reactionary tactics only buy short-lived relief. Long-term stability required observation, structure, and cooperation. After the major operations, teams met to review every detail. Trap placements, timing, bait strategies, animal behavior, and community response. Data from cameras and trackers was analyzed. Patterns were mapped and shared with farmers and local officials. New guidelines were drafted. Clear protocols for humane capture, standardized reporting methods, and a local network for rotating monitoring duties. The work moved from improvised to institutional. Education became vital. Workshops taught safe storage of feed, ways to limit attractants, and landscape changes that reduce access. Farmers learned to install sacrificial buffer crops and to close off small corridors leading into fields. Children learned why not to chase wild animals, and elderly residents were advised on simple measures to secure yards. Economic solutions softened the sting. Processing captured animals to improve sanitary standards provided meat and a small income stream. Some communities formed cooperatives to share costs and benefits. These practices made control efforts sustainable and allowed humane, lawful handling at scale. Law enforcement and wildlife agencies also played a role. Permits, oversight, and coordination prevented abuses and ensured that actions followed conservation and public health guidelines. When authorities and locals cooperated, the results were faster and more defensible in both law and public opinion. The lead boar, despite his cunning, eventually stopped visiting the farmlands regularly, either pushed to new terrain or dispersed by social pressure. His influence waned. The herd that remained reverted to normal patterns, and the worst impacts diminished, but we didn't celebrate recklessly. The balance we restored required constant stewardship. Looking back, the campaign's real victory was not the number of captures, but the shift in mindset. We stopped fighting every single hog and began managing the landscape, so the hogs could no longer wage war on our crops. Farmers slept easier. Fields recovered. Kids returned to play. That success belonged to a community that chose method over reaction, care over chaos. If you face similar issues, remember this. Study the movement. Set humane boundaries, coordinate with neighbors and authorities, and document everything. The problem is complex but solvable when people act together. If you found this story useful, like the video, subscribe for practical field-tested strategies, and share this with someone defending land near you. Together, we protect what feeds us. Join local forums, report sightings promptly, and support humane control programs. Small actions now prevent larger losses later for everyone. T-checks.